power. I knew Satan. I knew I had been all in these kind of powers. But then we were being warned not be around that man's, where he is in the city. That man was Maurice Cerullo. So he was coming in the city. And I remember we were told, stay out of the city 70 miles away and do not enter the city another 21
That's
days.
Incredible.
Because even after 21 days, his power, the effect of his power remains in the atmosphere after 21 days. Wow. He has been in the city. So I knew the power of prayer. So when I came to Christ, the Lord was telling me, okay, you have seen the mistakes, the errors, because one of the work I was doing before I came to Christ was fighting churches and breaking churches. And the Lord was saying, now, you know how you broke these churches, and you know what were the errors and the mistakes and the weaknesses. So can you train an army of intercessors all over the world to bring out, to stand and take territories?
Wow.
So we are working with nations like Sri Lanka. We will have work in Sri Lanka, I work in Singapore, I work in Botswana, I work in Gabon, and a few places where I've been doing.
You've been in Europe to a few places as well.
We're having a work in Munich. We're doing a great work in Munich to raise intercessors and train young people to intercede, and then they take over the nations in prayer. So one of my calling, people call me apostle, others pastor, but my call is an intercessor. That's
Amen.
So I don't know if you can call me intercessor James.
I like that. I like that. So now let's go back to the beginning. What are the earliest memories you have?
My memory, when I was around 3 years, I realized in my home I was living with my mom and my uncle, the brother to my mom, and no one else. And it was strange because I was wondering why other people don't come to our home. Later I realized that when I was 3 months old, my father and my sisters left the home and did not return because of the strange things that were happening in the house, in the home. Now, I don't know what happened, the strange things. I didn't see, unless when my mother told me my story. But when I was 3 years, the event that I can remember is the death of my uncle. And when I began now my initiation into witchcraft, when I was 3 years.
I want us to come back to the death of your uncle, but before we come back to that, can you tell us what happened before you were born? Because this is really a critical part of understanding your journey. Give us an idea of what was going on with your mom and a marriage and her desperation to have a son that laid the foundation for you to come into this world.
I came to hear this story when I was around 12 years, to hear the story of my birth and why I was strange. Now, by the age of 12, I was already deep in the occult. I had been made a trainer of witches when I was the age of 9. At the age of 7, I was a territorial witch in charge of a territory. I had strange powers. People older than my mother could come and bow to me. Politicians, businessmen for powers. So I kept wondering, where did I get all these powers? Where am I strange? But my mother kept taking me to different witch doctors for help to be delivered from those powers. But several times we could go to these places to the witch doctors, and the witch doctors could chase my mother away, claiming that when she takes me to them, I steal their powers. So like even the witches, the sorcerers, the diviners, even they hated me because they were, this baby has strange powers. So my mother decided to take me to a man in Pemba. Pemba is in Tanzania, in the Indian Ocean, who was called a sultan. So in this journey, she said, I'm going to take you to this man, and this man is going to help you. So that's when I asked. I remember we were in Dar es Salaam. We were on the port trying to get a ferry to go to Pemba. And I asked her, but Mom, tell me something. Why am I strange? And I could see when I remember I looked at my mother, and like this time she was desperate to tell me and say, please, can you not interfere with where we're going? Can we please don't interfere? So like to convince me not to interfere, my powers, the power I had as a boy, for where we're going. So she had to tell me the story of my life. How she ended up in this. So this is what she tells me. She says, when she got married to, the reason she married my father, because her father had died, and her father was a rich chief, and she was the only daughter, and she had a brother, my uncle then. And when her father died, she says she knew the family in Africa. Most times, the family would take over every property, so she needed protection. So, by the grace of God, she says, at the time when her father died, and she's desperate, she's just a young lady, then my father started dating her. And my father, coming from a prominent family, a very known family and very strong, she thought this man, if he marries her, she'll get protection. So she gets into the family. Now, my father also was marrying her because he had been told he would find a young girl, marry early, and get as many children as possible. Because my father, being a son of a chief, son of like a prime minister, he was the only son. The brother had died. He had 7 sisters, the only son. So they were like, now you need to get a woman, get children, and raise a heir for the throne, like the chiefdom. So he marries for the purpose of getting a son. So when she married, my father and my mother, they married. She gave birth. The first child was a girl. The second child, also a girl. The third child, also a girl. Now, by the fourth child, the entire family, the chiefs, the tribe, they're all like, this woman is a waste. Because in my tribe, if you have only girls, they say you don't have children.
Wow.
So they wanted a hair. So in desperation, she went different witch doctors in different parts of the nation. And so she went, they told her, we're going to help you conceive. Then she conceived the 5th child, who was now also a girl. She went on different witch doctors, different altars, different plan, and also she conceived again the 6th child, also a girl. And she tells me that she was so desperate because she knew if she can't get a son, she will lose the marriage, and now her life will be wasted. Though at that time, she told me that someone told her that there is someone who can help her conceive a son. She had gone to all kinds of altars in Uganda and outside Uganda. She had traveled different parts and gave different sacrifices. She had the money. She could sell her properties to travel different places to help her conceive. So on this particular journey where she went, she was told to go to a forest in Tanzania. There's a place in Tanzania, northern Tanzania. There was a place, so she went there, and she realized that when she arrived at the place, they told her she had to undress and live in the forest for 7 days, going through cleansing.
Wow.
Before she appears before the person to help her. Now, before there's something I want us to note here, that was the king of darkness. But they understand the principle of consecration and cleansing.
Yeah.
Now I understand after that. So they tell her you have to undress, stay in the forest, cold, don't eat anything cooked for 7 days. So after the 7 days, you are clean enough to appear before this priest who was going to help her. So she says when she appeared after 7 days, that this priest was a woman who always lived in the days in the...
Okay. Listen, people. He is saying that when his mother wanted a son in the family, so his mom was so desperate to have a son. So she went beyond, far and beyond, until she went to like a voodoo priest. And especially in the third world, this happened a lot. I mean, over here in America, the system changed. Over here, it's more like white magic. It's more sophisticated, but this is still happening. Over here, we have to watch out at the hospital, who we talk to, who like who's our best friend, especially when you're going through your pregnancy. So, people, nothing just happened. You don't just do stuff. Everything you do, there's consequences. So, who's your best friend? Who do you keep around you? Who do you listen to? Because your soul is precious, and one plan of the enemy if to make you go back with him to hell. So, people, be very precautious about what you think, what you say, what you do, who's your best friend, who you talk to, what you watch. Be very mindful, be very prudent, be very precautious. So, this is the second part of the testimony. Let's move forward to the third part. Peace.